the silence that found me. I moved to the cabin seeking solitude, a refuge from the endless noise and chaos of city life. At first, the silence was a balm, peaceful and refreshing. But as days turned into nights, that silence began to feel like a presence itself, pressing in around me. The usual sounds of wildlife seemed to vanish, and even the wind refused to stir the trees. It was as if the world had muted itself, leaving me alone in a quiet too complete to be natural. At first, I tried to fill the void with music or the hum of the radio, but even those sounds felt swallowed up by the silence. It was a strange sensation, like speaking underwater my voice wouldn't carry, and it never echoed back. I began to notice small things: the absence of a bird's call at dawn, the lack of rustling leaves underfoot. The silence was so deep it almost had weight, and I could feel it pressing against my skin. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I thought I heard a faint whisper carried on the still air. It was so soft, I wasn't sure if it was real or just my mind playing tricks. The whisper never formed words, just a delicate shush that seemed to drift closer and then recede. The silence around me felt less like absence and more like a watchful presence, waiting patiently in the shadows. Night after night, the silence deepened. I began to dread the moments when I stopped moving or speaking, because that's when I felt it most, an invisible weight settling over the cabin. Sometimes I'd sense something just beyond the edge of vision, a flicker in the dark, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. The silence wasn't empty, it was alive, patient, and somehow hungry. I decided to test the silence. I shouted, clapped, even banged on the wooden walls, desperate to break through the heavy quiet. But no matter how loud I became, the silence swallowed every sound without a trace. It was as if the air itself was a void, consuming all noise and leaving only emptiness behind. I realized then that the silence was not just around me, it was inside me, growing with every quiet moment I endured. The days blurred together, marked only by the endless quiet. I stopped trying to speak aloud, afraid my voice would vanish into that consuming stillness. Instead, I listened for the tiniest sound, a creak, a breath, anything that could prove I was not alone with the silence. But all I heard was the quiet, thick and unyielding, until I felt it wasn't just silence anymore. It was something that had found me, a presence that had settled deep inside my mind. One night, as I lay awake in the dark, I finally understood. This silence was not a void, but a keeper of secrets, a shadow that watched and waited. It wasn't here to harm me, but to claim me, to pull me into its still depths where no sound could ever reach. I was no longer just alone. I was part of the silence now, caught in its quiet embrace with no escape but to listen forever.